All right, probably one of the most important things you would want for a paperless classroom is to use rubrics because through Canvas, that makes your grading a lot faster. So for instance, if I go to any of the articles that I currently have to grade, I can of course give these students comments on their article, but I can also very quickly give them rubric feedback as I've built all these rubrics for the different kinds of articles and then save that and submit it. So rubrics are really helpful, obviously, therefore, for grading and kind of speeding up that whole process so you can give some kind of broad feedback rather than having to give all the specific feedback again and again. You probably understand how rubrics work, right? So I'm not going to belabor that point. But to make them takes a lot of time, and they're really helpful if you can share them with people in your department. And it's really not too difficult, but it does take a couple steps. So the first thing you want to do is build a rubric. So you can add a rubric and take your time to build it. I'm not going to belabor that for you right now. There's a lot of different strategies for rubrics and what you might want to do for that. So I'm going to leave that for your department or for you as the teacher to discuss. But once I've built them, if I've created that rubric and I have it here, rather than trying to have someone else recreate that, to share it, I have to do a couple things. One is I have to make a blank assignment. So an assignment that doesn't exist, no one will ever use it, your students won't ever see it, but I have to create that assignment, and I'm just going to call it rubric, and I might say what that rubric's for. So rubric for journalism news article. And preferably there'd be someone else who teaches journalism, and then that would make sense that they'd be looking for this. But no one else teaches journalism at Jesuit, but for an English class, this might make more sense or something. But you can follow along with it anyway. So then I still have to make a due date. So I can just put something arbitrary in there and say, there's my due date, and then say, save. I don't need to publish it and scare my students that there's some rubric assignment out there. But here's the key thing. You need to say add rubric and then find the rubric that you've already created. And it should be in this nice drop down of all classes you've ever taught. There's all these rubrics if you've imported them into your class. So I'm going to go to one of my journalism rubrics that I've been talking about here. And this is that Beat News feature article rubric. I'm going to click that and say that's the one I want. And I see a little preview of it here. That looks good. And then here's how you share it. You go up to these three little dots. You say share to Commons. And it brings up this whole kind of world here. And it gives you a little preview over on the right. Assignment, rubric for journalism news article. Is this an update to a previously shared resource? It's not. I always just say all of Jesuit Portland. That way people could find it. And the content type, if you click public domain, that makes it easiest for everyone. And you can say it's just a template, so anyone can kind of overwrite whatever they want. And then you have a title, rubric for journalism news article. They make you have a description, so I'm just going to say rubric. Tags, it actually does help if you say rubric for people if they're searching it. And then an image, they make you have an image. There are no images of rubrics, so I could say grading, and yes, let's go with bulldozers. And then you want to set your grade level as well. So I'm just going to say high school, and then you just say share. And now it's out in Commons, it's in the public domain, no one has favorited it or anything like that. I could then send this resource link to my department, or your department can go find it. So let me go to a totally different class. I'll go to my flex period. And in my flex period, let's say I want to find a colleague's rubric that they've said they've shared to Commons. I go to Commons down here. And then I can search and say rubric. And you'll notice there are 1,500 results, so that's going to be impossible to find. And so I need to go to filter and Jesuit Portland down here. And here we go. Jen Adams and Dan Faulkner have shared rubrics. So I can go to rubric for journalism news article. It's the dump truck one. And now once I look at that and say this is the right thing, I can import download over on the right. I click that and I choose the course I want it to go to. So I want it to go to my flex period for some bizarre reason, but I could send it to any other course as well. And I'm going to import that into course. So that way, if you are working with a colleague in your paperless classroom and you want to share rubrics, it's really easy and you can quickly share those rubrics with them. I can now, just to show you that it worked, go over to my courses, go to my flex period, and go to rubrics, and it has this beat news feature article rubric, the one that I had looked at. Now I can use that for any assignment because it's in my general rubrics area. Now I also kind of unfortunately have this, imported assignment here, but just to see what happens here, if I delete that and I go to my rubrics, see that rubric's still there. So I can get rid of that assignment because it was just kind of a farcical assignment and still have that rubric and then build up that library of rubrics for whatever I need. Hopefully that helps so that you can share rubrics between classes. You don't have to feel that burden of constantly making new rubrics or trying to copy, line by line someone else's rubric, but reusing them within our own school community.